This is a total recap of Reacher Seasons 1 and 2, giving you everything you need to know before watching Season 3. At midnight, a man, later identified as Joe Reacher, is shot dead just outside of Margrave, Georgia. The following morning, Jack Reacher arrives on a Greyhound bus and walks into town where he is arrested at a diner for that murder. He is sent to be held in the local jail with Paul Hubble, a banker who falsely confessed to the murder. Spivey, a crooked guard, puts them in with the general population, where Reacher brutally foils an attempt on their lives. Hubble explains that he confessed to cover for a criminal organization that would have otherwise killed him and his family. After being released, Reacher is verbally threatened in town by the son of a local businessman, Kleiner. When he later returns to the police station, he is informed about a second killing. At the morgue, a discussion about both the recent murder and another one from earlier in the week leads him to identify the first victim as his older brother, Joe. Reacher teams up with Oscar Finley, the local police captain, and a cop named Roscoe Conklin to investigate his brother's murder and the recent disappearance of Hubble following his release from custody. Finley's boss, Ed Morrison, and his wife are gruesomely murdered at their home. Reacher deduces that he was killed for not taking care of Hubble. The mayor, Grover Teal, who himself is dirty, takes over as police chief and orders Finley to conduct a sham investigation into Morrison's death. Finley's friend, FBI agent Picard, agrees to take Hubble's wife and children into unofficial protective custody. Reacher then sets a meeting with Spivey but gets ambushed by two South American ex-soldiers, allowing for Spivey to escape. Roscoe then takes him to a bar where they dance. While driving home, they learn that the road is washed out and they are forced to spend the night sleeping in the same motel room where Reacher opens up about his past. Roscoe returns home to find evidence of a break-in. At Reacher's request, she gives him a gun. The group contacts Joe's colleague, Molly Beth Gordon, at the Secret Service, learning that Joe was in Margrave on a confidential assignment to investigate reports of large-scale counterfeiting. Reacher intimidates one of Kleiner's lawyers for information on Jobling, a Kleiner truck driver the company went to great pains to release from police custody. Meanwhile, Finley checks Spivey's house for clues and gets beaten by police after they mistake him for a burglar. Reacher and Finley then visit Kleiner in person. Kleiner claims he knows nothing and makes threats to drop the investigation. Reacher convinces Roscoe and Finley to move out of their homes temporarily. While buying supplies, Roscoe is approached by Kleiner's son, KJ, who warns her that Reacher is a murderer. Reacher himself is again ambushed by the ex-soldiers, but this time manages to kill them. He then finds Spivey's corpse in their trunk. After meeting with Finley, Reacher takes Roscoe to help him dispose of the bodies. He also reveals the truth behind KJ's warning. While serving in Iraq, Reacher killed 3 civilian men who were sexually assaulting a group of young boys. After the evidence is dumped at the Atlanta airport, Reacher pays for a hotel room where he and Roscoe have sex after she surprises him in the shower. The next day, they visit Jobling's house and find empty air conditioner boxes that Reacher suspects were used to move the counterfeit cash. Picard gives them a lead on the motel Joe stayed at before he was killed. Reacher finds a hidden note before he and Roscoe are jumped by more mercenaries. Roscoe saves Reacher's life, and Reacher admits that he put himself in danger to protect her. Molly Beth arrives in Atlanta with Joe's files on the case, but someone kills her and steals the files seconds before Reacher finds her. Feeling guilty for Molly Beth's murder, Reacher takes out his frustration by attacking KJ after he vandalizes Roscoe's truck. Kleiner declines to press charges. Roscoe learns that Teal has fired her for subpar police work. Now desperate for new leads, Reacher finds a key and trunk left by Roscoe's deceased former boss, Gray, containing research that confirms Reacher's suspicions that Margrave is the heart of Kleiner's counterfeiting operation, but with no usable evidence. Traveling to Memphis, Reacher meets with his old comrade, private investigator Francis Neagley, all in hopes of finding a hitman who may have been Joe's murderer. After Roscoe punches Teal upon learning that he murdered Gray, Finley gets her out of town by having her replace Picard as the Hubble family's bodyguard. Reacher and Neagley survive an attempt on their lives by a desperate Memphis cop whose family was threatened. Finley breaks into Kleiner's office only to find that Kleiner has just been killed. Finley and Reacher follow one of Kleiner's trucks. Finley tells Reacher the real reason he came to Margrave was not due to his divorce, but because his wife Sharon died after a long illness. After finding the truck empty, Reacher goes to New York City to meet with one of Joe's contacts, Professor Kate Castillo, having found that another contact had been murdered under the guise of being mugged. He determines that Kleiner had been shipping counterfeit money to a client in Venezuela using super bills made from specialized paper used in printing dollars. Assassins find Roscoe and Hubble's family, but Roscoe dispatches both men into the woods. While waiting for Picard, Paul Hubble's wife, Charlie, shares the details of their involvement with Kleiner, explaining that Paul was tricked into laundering money and was then forced to watch a man be crucified to ensure his loyalty. Reacher arranges for Castillo to get police protection and uses his necktie to strangle an assassin sent to kill her. Officer Stevenson and his pregnant wife are murdered by a hit squad seeking information about the Hubble family. Teal then fires Finley the next morning. Reacher pretends to confide in the last Margrave officer, Baker, who Reacher believes is corrupt, sharing a fake plan to search Hubble's house. Finley goes in person to inform Stevenson's parents of his death. The hit squad goes to Hubble's house planning to kill Reacher, but he traps and kills them all, including Kleiner's nephew, Dawson. Based on the information he's gathered, he realizes Kleiner was bleaching $1 bills to get the paper needed to print his money. Reacher checks in with Roscoe, who shares his discovery with Picard. Reacher helps Finley evade mercenaries who track him to his motel due to his visit to the Stevensons. Reacher and Finley return to Jobling's house, which has been burned to the ground. They search Jobling's parents' house and find boxes of counterfeit bills. They arrange a meet with Picard, but when they arrive, Picard is waiting with KJ and Teal. KJ then confesses to all the murders, having killed Joe and the others to protect the operation and his father when he tried to stop him. Feeling he'd gone too far, KJ shows Reacher a captive Roscoe and sends him and Picard to find Hubble. Reacher tricks Picard into stopping to fix a tire and shoots him. Picard is able to escape. Reacher immediately finds Hubble, who reveals he was working with Joe and Jobling, who, keep in mind, feared that he would be murdered for stealing the counterfeit bills. Anyway, he was working with them to stop Kleiner's whole operation. So Finley is tortured by Baker at the precinct. Reacher then rams the station with a truck and kills him. Neagley arrives and Reacher gathers weapons before torching Kleiner's factory with gasoline. Finley then crushes Picard to death in a hydraulic press, while Roscoe subdues and handcuffs Teal before shooting him when he goes for her gun. As the warehouse goes up in flames, Reacher douses KJ with flammable chemicals and kicks him into the fire, burning him alive. A flashback reveals how Reacher's mother died in Paris after a long illness, giving him his French grandfather's croix de guerre. Roscoe gives Reacher her number and says to call whenever he wants. She tells him that she wants to rebuild Margrave. Reacher then suggests that she consider running for mayor. Finley decides to move back to Boston. After burying the medal where Joe died, Reacher quietly walks out of Margrave and sticks out his thumb for a ride, continuing his journey. Somewhere in the Catskill Mountains, a man is shown being thrown out of a helicopter to his death. The next day, Reacher is in line at an ATM in Arkansas when he intervenes to subdue an armed carjacker. He then notices that his own ATM receipt has a military emergency assistance code embedded in the amounts. Reacher contacts his former teammate, Frances Neagley, who confirms that she planted it there to get his attention. The man dropped from the helicopter was Calvin Franz, another former member of Reacher's handpicked Special Investigations Unit during his time in the Army. The two begin investigating the murder with the help of a third member, David O'Donnell. Reacher obtains a data drive hidden by Franz, obtaining a list of numbers and a separate list of names starting with the initials AM, suspected to be aliases. Neagley reveals that another member of the 110th Special Investigations Unit, Stan Lowry, died in a car accident 2 years before Franz was killed, leaving only 7 living members of the 110th. The trio swear to avenge their dead friend, Franz, by finding and punishing his killers themselves. The trio then tried to locate another member of the Special Investigations Unit, Tony Swan, at his home, but upon noticing that no one was answering the door, they broke in to find the house was empty and Swan's dog dead from dehydration. Reacher, noticing the pattern that with Franz murdered and now Swan presumed dead, deduces that someone is targeting every living member of Reacher's unit with brutal efficiency. Reacher assaults a stranger who was tailing him, only to then identify him as a NYPD detective, Guy Russo. Reacher, Neagley, and O'Donnell visit Atlantic City, where 2 more teammates, Sanchez and Orozco, work as security guards for Neptune Casino. Along the way, they meet Carla Dixon, another member of the team, and potential love interest for Reacher. They then find a helpful ally in David Wright, the casino's chief of security. David comps the team a suite to stay in and helps them search for Sanchez and Orozco. Unfortunately, his police contacts confirm that both men were abducted, murdered, and dumped in the same region of mountains as Franz. He is also able to confirm that none of the casinos are missing money, so the numbers on the list must mean something else. A later assassination attempt points them back toward New York to a company called New Age Technologies. Flashbacks show New Age head of security Shane Langston torturing Franz for information. Before being thrown from the helicopter, Franz warns Langston that the big guy is coming for him. Now, back in the present, Reacher acquires guns for the team before he and O'Donnell are arrested by Russo. Russo then reveals his investigation had identified a suspect in the murders, Azari Mammon, the owner of the AM alias. Meanwhile, Neagley and Dixon visit the offices of New Age Technologies, where Director of Operations Marlo Burns identifies the man who had been sent to kill them as Trevor Soropian and gives them his address. Now, while in Denver, AM realizes that his aliases have been blown, and he tells Langston that his planned arrival in New York will be delayed. Meanwhile, Dixon deduces that the list of figures discovered on the Franz USB represents days and months. Reacher, Neagley, Dixon, and O'Donnell pay a visit to Soropian's house, correctly anticipating an ambush, and they kill a large number of mercenaries working for New Age. With New Age's involvement now confirmed, the team members conduct a raid on the company's headquarters, finding evidence that Special Investigators member Tony Swan had been an employee there. As the team members investigate their discoveries from New Age, they disagree on Swan's motives after he was revealed to be working in the company's security department. The team members find out that New Age has a government defense contract called Little Wing, thanks to notes from a senator named Lavoie. Meanwhile, back in Denver, AM kills a plastic surgeon in an attempt to steal his identity before flying to New York. The team members track the senator's legislative aide to Boston, where Dixon helps Oscar Finley arrest the aide to coerce information out of him. The aide reveals to Reacher and O'Donnell that Little Wing is a missile program conducted in New Age facilities in Denver and New York to create missiles that will always hit their targets. Reacher realizes that people from New Age are planning to sell 650 missiles to AM to enable terrorist attacks. Later that night, the team members are ambushed by a biker gang, but they manage to subdue them. Reacher then phones Langston, who attempts to bribe him into going away, but Reacher refuses and proclaims that he wants to throw him out of a helicopter. Neagley and Dixon pay a visit to New Age's facility in Denver, attempting to see the missiles, only to find that they have already been taken away in a truck. One of AM's henchmen stages the breakdown of another truck on the first truck's route and kills its driver. He opens the truck's trailer, revealing 3 other henchmen and the missiles. Neagley and Dixon, who have been chasing the first truck, come upon the scene just after the henchmen have switched the trailers. The henchmen try to kill Neagley and Dixon. The first henchman drives off with the missiles before Neagley and Dixon kill the other 3. In the paperwork that Neagley and Dixon received from the manager of New Age's Denver facility, they learn that Swan had allowed for the missiles to leave New Age. Meanwhile, Reacher and O'Donnell visit Washington, D.C., and they make a trip to the Department of Homeland Security for information on AM. Senator Lavoie catches up with Reacher and offers his assistance towards stopping a possible terrorist attack. The team members then head back to New York for Franz's funeral, where Reacher runs into and confronts Russo, who reveals that Langston and the New Age Security Department, minus Swan, are former NYPD detectives who took early retirement after being investigated. During the funeral, 2 hitmen try to kill the team. One of the hitmen is killed, and Reacher and Russo then chase down and catch the other. He then reveals that Swan is the one who paid him to kill the members of the team. When he goes to an abandoned building to collect his payment, the building explodes. Now, following the building explosion, Russo gives the team a lead regarding the location of Marlo Burns. After the team tracks her down, she confirms that Swan has been trying to stop New Age terrorist operation. She also reveals that she has been on the run thanks to Langston, who, keep in mind, warned her that she and her daughter would be killed if she associated herself with Swan. Russo learns that his boss was contacted by New Age, and he is involved with their plans, having been bribed into revealing information regarding Reacher and the team. When Russo and Marlo's daughter, Jane, attempts to go into hiding, they are attacked by New Age hitmen attempting to kill them while pursuing them in a high-speed chase across the city, forcing Russo to call the team for backup. The team then enlists Marlo as bait to lure Langston and other members of New Age into a trap, which results in Reacher killing all of them minus Langston, who escapes. Afterwards, Neagley, Dixon, and O'Donnell arrive to assist Russo. They rescue Jane, but Russo has sacrificed himself to kill the hitmen. Reacher and his team decide to send Marlo and Jane to a safe place Dixon used to stay in Buffalo. Reacher and Neagley confront Lieutenant Marsh in his home while Dixon and O'Donnell send Marlo and Jane off in a safe passage. Marsh is killed by Reacher after he reveals that Grant, a hitman hired by Langston to take down Russo, is indeed alive and in a hospital. Reacher and Neagley extract information regarding the buy from Grant after Reacher threatens to burst the balloon in Grant's bladder by filling it with air. However, Reacher, before leaving, ensures that Grant dies from an embolism as revenge for killing Russo. They then find a hitman disguised as a doctor sent to kill Grant, and the hitman is accidentally killed in the fight between him, Neagley, and Reacher. Langston reveals to Reacher in a phone call that he has got Dixon and O'Donnell. Reacher lies to Langston that Neagley got killed in the fight with the hitman. Meanwhile, Dixon and O'Donnell are tortured by Langston's men. Reacher demands that Senator Lavoie's private security team be placed at his disposal. Leaving Neagley outside with a plan, Reacher walks into the New Age facility alone, surrenders himself, and he confronts Langston. While being held captive, Reacher learns that Swan never joined Langston and refuses to be a part of this conspiracy. As a result of his defiance, Swan was murdered, and his harvested body parts were used for DNA evidence to frame him as the designated fall guy. Neagley and Lavoie's security team successfully break Reacher out of the New Age facility, allowing him to board Langston's helicopter. Reacher kills the remaining bodyguard and, as promised, tosses Langston out of the helicopter to his death, freeing O'Donnell and Dixon. The team then heads to the New Age engineer's house to ambush and kill AM. The investigators then kill the two remaining New Age employees for their part in the conspiracy by using a Little Wing missile on Langston's helicopter, with the crash then covered up by Homeland Security. Anticipating that Lavoie's security team was going to assassinate the investigators as the last remaining loose ends, Homeland Security agents arrest Lavoie and the security team after receiving a tip from Reacher prior to his rescue mission. The team then distributes the $65 million amongst themselves and the surviving family members of their fallen allies. They then go their separate ways. And that was a total recap of Reacher Seasons 1 and 2, giving you everything you need to know before watching Season 3. I've been your host, Colton Ogburn, and I'll see you on the next Total Recap.
What about the guy you lobotomized? Did he get a refund? I have to hand it to you. That's the best mindfuck yet.